was going to ask you because you said in your promo for this is your only show until like May. So what is
That's right.
a typical week in the life now? I know you're grinding at the Comedy Store and Laugh
Yeah,
Factory
yeah,
like
yeah.
crazy. I mean, it's not like you're taking 3 months off and like let's go workshop 60
I
minutes and see
know.
what we got.
I will tell you, it's like when I come off the road, because it was 3 consecutive years of touring. I did 3 tours back to back, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this year off. And I'll sort of get into what that is in a minute. But I had a few other projects. I was like, I
Yeah.
just want to laser focus on, getting those across the finish line and, so on and so forth. But the minute my calendar was empty, except for the one Iowa gig, my heart sank. I'm 35 years in, and I'm like, oh, I already miss it. I want to be out there. It's like, man, it's my breakfast, lunch, dinner show. That's
Yeah.
been most of my life. So the Iowa one will probably be like even more off the rails in Good Time USA because I know I won't have one on the road for a while.
That's awesome. I mean, 35 years in, man. Like it's so easy to lose that spark. To still have that like that longing for the stage and just performing, man. I mean, that's a blessing, I bet.
It's never wavered. I've, had definitely had my, everybody in a career has years where you're sort of like, okay, how did I get to this spot? Or I definitely want to be over there. But I'd be lying if I didn't say to you, if there's a stage and I know I'm going to be on it at night, whether it's a local one with, a small crowd or an arena with 20,000 people, it's the same feeling. I get to work tonight. I get to try something. I get to probably entertain a fan that's appreciated me for a while that maybe hasn't seen me, and maybe somebody who's not a fan who has never really been on, the Dane train as we've lovingly called it since I was a kid. And
Yeah.
then you get to win them over potentially. And so for so many reasons, it's as glamorous to me now as it's been, since I started 1990 back in Boston.
Yeah. Does the allure of those iconic places we just named too, does that ever go away? You know, it's the grind, it's the 9 to 5, so to speak, the
No,
work, but it's the
because I
comedy
think more
store.
than anything, when people want to bring up, Radio City Music Hall or, MSG or, even the Beacon, all the New York spots are sort of like, that's the center stage in some ways. And when people bring up those moments, for me, it's like, I'm sure because I'm a fan and I know for me, it's like a piece of healing. Your entertainment probably did something to either help me celebrate a moment or get through a moment. And if I'm looking at myself saying I'm providing that for somebody else, but what does it mean those nights to me? It's like a living journal because I get to go like, this is where I was in a capsizing moment and comedy saved me. This is where I was in like embarrassment of riches. Like it's too much attention on me, but you know what? I still get to go up and some jokes are going to work, some might not. And I get to feel like comedy's the great equalizer. And for all those reasons, man, I hope it'll never not feel the way it feels even talking with you right now about coming in and doing a show.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I like so many other people, I saw Comedy Central Presents back in like what 99, 2000 and just, there was a spark and I was just I know you were on with Carvey and Spade a couple years ago talking about I never realized the SNL freeze up story and what happened there. And so I was just curious because you were a forefront with the internet and connecting with fans there. But
Yeah.
after what happened with SNL or what kind of didn't what happened with SNL, when you got that Comedy Central deal, that I think did it include the albums maybe, but just were you just like this is it? Like you've been grinding for a better part of a decade at that point, premium blend and all that stuff, some bit rolls. But like, how big was that moment? Because back in the day, for those that like, don't remember, like when you got Comedy Central Presents, that could be a springboard to
Huge.
everything. How big was that?
It was everything, and I thought it was a small window. I never knew that Comedy Central would be the pivot moment. Kind of like some things in this career. So I always tell like people that I'm sort of mentoring or sharing, space with. It's like never give up on yourself because you'd be surprised at like the leanest tool in your arsenal might be the very thing that catapults you at some point. I'll tell you real the we'll speed date it for this story, but so SNL wanted me to potentially join the cast in '95. I had somewhat of a panic attack. I didn't feel like I was had the competitive spirit that I knew that you needed to survive to get on the air there. I was not that guy. I was not in the mid '90s. I was not the person who could go into a room and say, "You're going to put my skit on, and here's why." I just didn't have it in me. And so that led to me forfeiting my opportunity, whereas I knew that they really, really were positioning me. The producers and Lauren Michaels and so cut 2 years later, I say no. Jimmy Fallon ended up getting the role, which by the way, Jimmy Fallon might have gotten the role anyway. Jimmy Fallon is Jimmy Fallon, and
Yeah.
so whether I swung and hit it out of the park and got it, or swung, hit, and Jimmy still got it, it remained to be seen. I just knew that I didn't even take a shot at it. So when Comedy Central came around, now I'm like realizing, I've done some stuff. I've done late night television. I've done everything else, but it's not really leading up to the industry. I don't even want to say like knocking one knock like that at the door. Nobody was knocking the door down, ringing the bell. So when Comedy Central came along, they initially didn't even want me for those half hours. They passed on me. My manager and I took a meeting with them and sort of like through the kitchen sink and said like, I promise I'll come through for you guys. I'm give you everything I got. I think they saw me at that point as sort of um, too rogue and too unbridled to put money behind, to know that when they rent that theater and rent that equipment that day, that I'm going to give them what they need for a proper edit of a show. They thought I was still sort of like lightning in a bottle, and what if we don't catch it that night? It's a waste of our time and money. So when they gave me the opportunity, I go in, I record the show that people ended up seeing. I did not have a record deal at that time. I
Yeah.
was selling Harmful of Swallowed Out of My Trunk. That was my debut album. And here's what happened. It aired, it caught fire. I thought it would air once, maybe twice a year. They started airing twice a night, always on late night, a couple times prime time. And then the record deal came in tandem because I was selling Harmful of Swallowed Out of My Trunk for 2 years, believing in myself, selling them for, $15 a pop. And when they started their record division in tandem to the half hour taking off, they came to me and said, we'd like to take that album, we'll put it on shelves, and we'll sort of see what we can do with this nice little wave that was, kind of that I was surfing, that was, moving me forward in my career. But nobody would have thought, and I didn't think that by the end of that year in 2001, that I would be the belle of the ball in some ways. So it was awesome. It was great, and I was ready. I was ready.
Yeah, I mean, you were a decade plus in at that point. And again, you were connecting with people online today it's necessary. You have to do it. And your
Right.
main audience is online. But what was it about MySpace and those early social medias that you felt like this is the rock to keep swinging at?
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm supposed to. I'll give you a little exclusive, and I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for saying it. But so there's two documentaries coming out this year.
Yeah.
One documentary is my documentary that I can't wait for people to see, about this kind of like epic moment of my life that also is coupled with some craziness.
Yeah.
But the second doc that again I'm maybe getting a phone call after I say this, but is a great organization came to me and they've just completed a MySpace documentary, and I'm in that, and it's walking myself and some of the other MySpace breakthroughs, internet breakthroughs of that era, talking about what it meant to us. What it meant to me was there was suddenly a window. I remember jokingly thinking like, this is like a lemonade stand that I set up on the corner, and not only is everybody driving by locally that you'd want to give a wave to, or make a few bucks selling a cool beverage, the whole world might potentially drive by. And so in college, specifically college age, my demo at the time, so I think I was about 2 years ahead of anybody even really understanding, when they would come to me and say, "This is kind of a fad, or this thing, this temporary." They sort of thought it was a fad. I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is the next. This is where everything's going. This is sort of like how we're gonna. This is the new telephone. This is where everybody's gonna, a virtual hub. And I set up shop. And when I tell you, man, I promise you this, like, I've never partied in my life. I've never had a drink or a drug in my 53 years. But I I have burnt the candle sitting at a keyboard for 22 hours a day, shaking hands digitally for those 2, 3, 4 years with every single person who took time out of their life to say, I caught your stuff. I like you. I think I'm on board. And I'd write him back and say, who are you? Where are you from? Let's keep in touch.
And then 20 years later, man, I mean, that was the move to make. And
I know my fingers are still sore. I'm
I'm
not even
sure,
kidding.
I don't
I
doubt
think I
it.
have carpal tunnel. I
Where
think
was
I have
this?
like
Where was this? You needed it. Do you feel then almost an obligation to mentor up and comers who are either like, Matt Rice, probably the parallel, right? Of just like going into the stratosphere. Or I know she was on our morning show like 7.5 years ago. Erica Rhodes, I know you're friends with her. Like
yeah.
she just had a clip go crazy in the last year. Do you feel it like to reach out to them, be like, hey, like, are you doing okay? Because it's, virality is what we're all chasing, right? You want to get those views, but at the same time,
Sure.
like there's weight that comes with it.
Yeah, I think that my position where I'm best served is like I'm in the business of you keep your integrity. You have to you only you really know how you want to be perceived and seen. It takes a long time building blocks. So I think that I'm always trying to fortify, like, go for it. If you feel like it's something you need to do, I'm not in a position to tell somebody what their funny should be or how to dress or how to operate. It really is in support. And sometimes not to make it sort of like the boring stuff is like, you run into like legal jams and things that you're unsure about the way the business is wording things. I think I'm pretty good at helping people circumvent or be a little bit more aware of the landmines that yours truly also stepped on, maybe without the help or support that I wish I had had at that point. But in terms of just like seeing people on the come up and reaching out and just saying, um, I, I think you have all the ability in the world, and I'm a fan. And sometimes just that, sometimes it's just that. Erica and I became friends some years back, and Erica is just a one of a kind, outstanding writer, performer, but a good-hearted person. And you just want to see somebody like that and let them know, like, I got your back. I'm here if you ever, I don't know. With Matt Rife, it was like, Matt, we did a lot of hikes around LA. We would do Runyon King and talk about social media, and like, I would say to him, there's only so much I could tell you. Then you're going to tell me some stuff because you're privy to things that like I didn't do or can't do now. So maybe we can sort of find a way to take the best of what I did, and now you're going to tell me, oh, but this is what I should be, a new pitch that you're going to throw from the mound that I got to watch Rife up close and personal suddenly take and put into his, arsenal of abilities. And then you're like, man, you're in the never been done before business. And so we can both share that terminology, but somebody like Matt is taking it to places that, I could only have dreamt of taking it. So it's cool, man. It's cool. Like you get to be on their ride, but you also get to be the friend indeed when they need it.
There you go. And
Yeah.
I mean, again, 20 years back, you just celebrated 20 years of retaliation and the momentum was going, right? And Waiting, I think, came out that same year. And for anybody who
Yeah.
worked in service, like, please and thank you for that film. I mean,
Sure.
that was just a blast. But looking back at just how quick that thing, I mean, I think it sold like 100,000 in their first week, which like nowadays, certainly for an album, 100,000 is incredible. But even that for a comedy album was crazy. What do you
Yeah.
just remember about the realization of, oh man, this is, I mean, you're talking about Steve Martin and what he did, and you get in the round of MSG, where first arena shows in the round of MSG, right? I think it was like,
Yeah.
just like, what was it like in those first moments where you go, it's your wildest dreams, but I'm sure it's intense.
Um, Realizing I was ready, not letting the younger version of myself that had a lot of complexities in terms of like the give me the ball moment. So realizing that yes, I had earned this trajectory was mine and mine alone with my fans, and then feeling responsible in a way because I knew it sounds so big to say this now and saying it like with somewhat easy breezy, but without saying it fully then, but realizing I'm the comedian of my generation. I'm in front. I could see Chappelle over here and realizing, and by the way, when I say Chappelle over here, like Chappelle's in his own on
Yeah.
his own planet. Like Dave is in rare air. But we're both on this sort of like come up and you could identify us for what we were doing at the front of stand-up comedy for our age and for a lot of comedy fans that we knew in the 90s weren't into 70s or 80s comedy. It was their first comedy show. So the responsibility, reveling in it, not allowing myself to look back ever and say, man, I wish I enjoyed the game because what if it's one game? Do I go to a few World Series? Do I get to, because I knew what a career was. I knew that it wasn't, a lot of it is there's some magic, there's some luck, there's politics, there's a bunch of things that sort of like, can come in and enhance or deplete it. The times change quick. Something in society. If COVID happened in 2002,
Yeah.
would have knocked me off my momentum. And so, keeping in my faith and feeling blessed. But I think the thing I take away from what initially you spoke to, which was when that second album, when Retaliation hit and put me right next to Jay-Z on not the comedy charts, but the actual charts. I was like, I was like, I got it. I really remember feeling like I know that I'm going to be able to deliver. I'm so ready, and I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to walk away from any opportunity now because I'm ready for every opportunity. And I took advantage of all of it. The movies, the TV, the comedy specials, almost getting to Broadway. We're very close with Broadway. I was ready, like, that 10-year run. Um, Man, I just look back on it with fondness and appreciation that I made it through all my fears. I made it through all the insecurity, and that I left my mark. Showed my mom and dad everything I wanted to show them. I'm gonna I'm going to take this as far as I can take it, and I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. So I hope that we're talking about a few other
Yeah.
victory laps. But for that era, in the my hello to everybody, I have nothing but appreciation and fondness for that moment.
For sure. And then how does that inform? And I mean, you've mentioned the pitfalls that can come to, and I know documentary of everything that happened with
Yeah.
family and all that. I mean,
Oh
a
man.
tragedy plus time. I mean, I mean, how does that now inform what 2026 material is? And I don't know legalities of how much you can talk about it, but how does all of that stuff then inform what people are going to see in Iowa this weekend?
Well, I know this. I wouldn't be here I wouldn't be sitting here the happiest and healthiest I've ever been personally and professionally. All of it. I think I always had sort of like different, I was revved up on this side, but dealing with, some personal, nightmares, but some career like heights. And so it was always like this strange, my therapy for a couple of years was like a real talk about a tear down. Like it was like, we're not putting a fresh coat of paint. Like this is like deconstruct and reconstruct. But
Yeah,
through my faith, through my wife helping me to really, find that deeper faith that had I've been challenged by, God and knowing I was on a path. And even when I thought I was off the path, I was actually on the path. That it all made me a better version of myself. Um, to have empathy, compassion, be mindful. All of it I had to go through. And when you see the documentary, I can't say where the documentary is going to be yet because we're still in the paperwork phase, but
sure.
we're very very excited about the platform that we're working with. And when people see it, it speaks to that era, speaks to the highlight moments. But then I think people are going to see a side of me in my life that maybe you were unaware of. And so it's a true crime story, but it's a true crime comedy. I guess you could kind of put it in that range. And then by way of that, in the last year, people starting to see the rough cut, which we allowed to sort of like go around town a little bit with some people we trusted. I had the good fortune of getting some movie opportunities this year. I'm actually growing my hair out because I'm going to be doing this movie. We're set in 1985, so I'm going to have a nice feathered do in a little bit. It's a little vicious circle right
Little
now, but
bit, yeah.
we're trying to
Yep,
get
yep.
to 84. So, and it's with a person of high pedigree, writer director. I wouldn't be working with that person if I hadn't stayed healthy, and I could have done a lot of schlock over the years that probably would have kept me in people's eye line, but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
And I'd like to think that I've been lucky the last 10 years to, meet my wife, fall in love, have a great life, a great marriage, a home that I love, but then also work that I think speaks to who I am now at this point in my life, where my fans are at with their families, with, some of the things that people, endure as we've gotten a little bit older, as I'm the old bull on the hill. So for all those reasons, I think the things you're going to see me as a part of this year, um, are in new territory that I think takes advantage of a lot of what I've been through and recognized. So I can't tell you, man. It's like this year, every year I sort of like look at the roadmap and I go like, okay, what am I most excited about? I think this year I was like, there's like four highlight reel moments that I can't wait to actually be able to talk about in the next 2 or 3 weeks. You'll start hearing about what these things are.
it's awesome. All
Yeah,
that
man, it's
stuff,
cool.
and then the Patriots show up on Sunday, and it
Oh,
all.
okay.
I
I'm
was I
still
wasn't going to
real
go
out of
to.
frame at
So
this
so
point.
I did have a question. So you've been out in
Oh
LA, I
no.
think, for more than half your life. What's I mean, home is home, but why has that still been so important to be a Pats guy, to be a Sox guy?
I love the people. I love the organizations. I've had the privilege of knowing the Kraft family and the Henry family and Linda, his wife, and we've shared space. It just you know, the aches and pains years growing up where we weren't so good. Definitely not in football or baseball. And I think that after my dad passed away too, more than ever, it like connects me to my dad. So when the Patriots are making a run, fulfilling or not, um, it it makes me feel the best parts of home. The best part, Boston launched me. The people of Boston rallied behind me, and I wouldn't have gotten anywhere if they didn't applaud and laugh enough to say, "Hey, get the heck out of here! You got to go to come back." When I came to LA, I just loved. Listen, man. It's a rough town. It's competitive. It can suck. There can be a lot of jealousy, and there's a lot of politics again, but there's still a lot of people that dream the same dream I have, just like to collaborate with creative people. An idea from nothing that ends up on a page, that ends up on a set, and it's fun to tell stories and help people escape from the rough stuff in life, And so that's what kept me here. But my heart is still in Boston. It's in the restaurants for sure. I miss a lot of my Boston food, but my sister's back there, my younger sister, and even though I've gone through some rough stuff, which you'll see in the doc, that also, I'm reminded of when I go back there. The greatest part of being here is representing where I came from.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just mentioned restaurants, and I brought up waiting. How is that one of the things that still like people come up to you and just like thank you? Because I mean that there's more truth in that movie than a lot of folks probably know if they haven't worked in the service industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I did it. I was a restaurant guy, and for years a couple of years I was worked in a nursing home. I was a
Oh wow.
dietary aide and prepping food and just always around food and in kitchens. And it was always characters, like always, a wild scene, especially if you're on those like night shifts at the kitchen,
Yeah.
but restaurants that I worked at. And really, when everybody showed up on set, it was like a bunch of actors that were on the come up that also had probably just previously been working
Yeah.
at restaurants. And we put everything we had into like the the minutia of those characters in the world, knowing we were making a little movie that probably wasn't gonna get a lot of play. Ryan Reynolds at the time was not Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I was just sort of like the comedy guy that, you knew me or it was like, who? So yeah, not one that I thought we'd be talking about all these years later, but probably the one that most people bring up.
I should specify we're not talking about actually people spitting in food. It's more just like the hatred of like somebody walking in at 9:57
Oh
when
yeah.
it closes the anger that shoots through back of the house. You're like you couldn't wait 180 seconds to do something else. I don't know. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I think that there's there's like B-roll footage and stuff that never made the cut because there was a lot
sure.
of improv, but I would pay money out of my own pocket to say to the director and producer, "Give me all the stuff that didn't make it in the movie." Because so much stuff that I know people would go like, "Oh man, I relate to that," or "That's part of that job." I wish that we could just have like a YouTube video of just all the stuff that didn't make it that is still very funny, but probably was a little too lewd and crude to
But that's what it's.
to
I
make it.
mean, if you've got Luis Keckner, Justin Long, you, Ryan, like, yeah, and that's the thing that's the great thing about YouTube, right? Is like go find that stuff and just throw it out there and let people enjoy it. Like that's it's the way of the world nowadays, man.
I was at SNL 50
Yeah.
in the after party. One of the coolest, greatest nights of my life will be being at SNL, just being in the room, just the whole night from the minute I got in the red carpet line and just who was there and having been a part of the history of the show and hosting it a couple of times. But then the after party, I'm sitting at this little, some sliders. I'm eating something in a corner. Keckner sits right next to me. And we were talking about waiting and just talking about, stand-up comedy. But we kept bringing up waiting and being in that being in that kitchen. And I think he said echoed what I just said, which is, man, all that stuff that nobody will ever see that was just 2 hours we could have done just of Floyd and everybody in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see Keckner back there at the big SNL 50, and we shared a lot of laughs on the set that couple of days, and certainly still do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hey, he did Anchorman, and they made a whole another movie out of what was on the cutting room floor there too.
So
So I mean,
good.
it's always possible.
Yeah, man, you never
Yeah.
know.
On a personal note, dude, thank you for making the best Tekken joke anybody will ever make. I don't remember where I was exactly, but when I heard what is like 30 seconds into track two, and I was like, this guy's making Eddie Goro references, and I
I had
already
like
knew
a
you a little
good, I
bit,
had
but I'm
like a
like,
nice Jin Kazama in
yeah,
there. I
like
had
this guy understands that there are button mashers that are getting away with a lot. And oh man, I know you get the nostalgia trip quite a bit, man, but it's because those of us who are in those college years, man, you're still with us, and it's so cool to see you doing well and
oh
be in a
man,
good
thank
spot,
you.
man. A blast, dude. Thanks for the
Hey,
time.
thank you, man. It means the world to me. And you know what? It's like you know, the run that I was on then, and then sort of like where I feel like things are at last couple of years and going into this year. Um, it feels like a victory lap for all of us. It really does. We all sort of shared that moment together. And even though I was on stage and you guys were in the crowd, I felt like I was one of you guys. So the appreciation is honestly like, I could say the exact same thing back to you guys, man. I feel very blessed to be sitting here and having another go around. And I think especially after the doc finally lands, we'll have a huge tour next year, and hopefully we can talk again about everything that um, you know drops this
Yeah.
year.
Would love to, man. Safe
Appreciate
travels.
it.
All the best. Take care, dude.
Thanks, man. Have a good
Yep.
one.